Welcome to Whitchurch, where we have a 30-mile-an-hour limit around all of the town at this current point. You can see by the gateway sign behind me, it's indicated at all the entrances to Whitchurch. What we're going to have a look at is in town, where a new 20-mile-an-hour zone is proposed for. It's currently out for consultation. You have some questionnaires to fill in, or you can just email to the County Council to give your opinion on what you think about the 20-mile-an-hour zone being piloted in Whitchurch, just one of 10 areas in all of Hampshire County to get it. So Lynch Hill Park is included in the 20-mile-an-hour zone, and in fact it's going to have one of 3 speed check areas, and it's going to be right about here that they're going to have some sort of system for checking your speed, make sure people are doing 20 miles an hour. Dances Lane and the Bear Hill section in front of the police station, Burgage Field, that's all going to be in the 20-mile-an-hour zone. So this whole section of Bear Hill, right here along top end of town, leading right into the Scout Hut and daycare nursery, the Oak Tree Nursery, that is staying, under the current proposals, as 30 miles an hour. So here we are at the end of Bear Hill, and we have the Scout Hut and Oak Tree Nursery just behind me. This area isn't included in the 20-mile-an-hour zone. The Station Road and Bear Hill interchange with Newbury Road. So you can see here lots of traffic coming in along the old A34 into town. This is a 30-mile-an-hour zone. It changes over just at the bridge, right there. But lots of traffic also speeding up, heading out of town, getting ready to go into that 60-mile-an-hour stretch that leads up a long distance to the A34 entrance. So here you can see there's a couple blind corners. You can't really look around them, which may be a good thing actually. It forces the cars there on Station Road to slow down and really stop and have a look to make sure everything is clear. Quite a big intersection. Lots of people are crossing here. They have a nursery to the right and train station to the left. We've got people that love to do the cycle rides around town coming in along this stretch across the railway bridge there and then down in towards town. Interestingly, when they rebuilt this bridge here across the railway line, they didn't really make the pavement that wide, nor did they put in a bicycle path. So a lot of the people that are walking along there, this gentleman here with his dog, have to walk on the road in order to get along that bit of the section. And remember, you can see the sign there actually, it's 60 miles an hour, this whole section. Cars coming out here, turning from the railway station, heading down to town. People, as I was saying, getting ready to that 60-mile-an-hour zone up there. It's 30 still here. Kill your speed, as the sign says. Also at this intersection, we get buses coming out. The train station is serviced by several bus lines. And, the buses come out there, turn right, and head into town. Same time, you've got all the cars coming in. There's right there the entrance to the Bear Hill for nursery and daycare. Nice, long, wide, straight road. Generally, wider roads like that, wider lanes, make people feel that they're able to go a bit faster. You can see where the cars are there, that there is a pedestrian safety area where you can cross to get to the bus shelter that's there. Again, that may be raising a problem for people that are on bicycles, because cars will try to sometimes overtake you, even though it is still 30 zone, and see the island in the middle and have to cut in on you. So sometimes those things called pinch points aren't the best idea to have. balance really needs to be struck for safety on that. Let's go down to Ardglen now. So here we are at Ardglen. Ardglen is not included in the 20 mile an hour scheme. There's going to be signs right there saying 20 miles an hour, which I guess is a good thing because all the traffic coming up from the Ardglen estate, getting into town, has to remember that it is in a town, even if they might be just shooting around the station to get out. That little section is quite popular, people going to the train station, and also importantly there's some footpaths right at the exit of Ardglen that people will be using as cut-throughs or one to cross from, and there's also a footpath that leads down where a lot of people walk their dogs. This whole section is 20 miles an hour, and people coming up from Ardglen need to be reminded if they're in a 30 that they're entering a 20. So let's head back over to Newbury Road again and head down towards the town centre. But let's stop here at Dance's Lane. There's some interesting things here. This is, remember, 30 miles an hour all the way along Newbury Road at this point. 20 mile an hour zone is only there to the left on Dance's Lane. 30 miles an hour along this Newbury Road.
So here we are on Newbury Road and at the intersection of Dance's Lane. That way up there leads to the police station. And behind me towards the train station and over the railway bridge. This is where they're going to be starting a 20 mile an hour zone for Whitchurch. Interestingly enough though, part of this isn't included, and it's right where a lot of people cross to get either into town or over to the railway station. I'll show you those sections here. So there's Dance's Lane, and people will either cross there or they swing around just over here. And where are they trying to get to? Well, either down here to town, or if I swing around a bit more and face back up where my bicycle is, there you can see there's a footpath that leads up into the train station area. And so a lot of people will be walking up here and cutting through that path. A lot of kids will be coming this way and down towards school. But if they're trying to cross the road here, that's at 30 miles an hour, not 20.
Alright, let's move down Newbury Road a little bit more towards the town centre, down towards King's Walk.
So here we are on Newbury Road, just up from the town centre. This is going to be the start of the 20 mile an hour zone. All the area leading up to this point is going to remain 30 under the current proposal. The sign's going to go just here behind me, so all the cars coming in from the old A34 across the railway bridge and down into town, they'll stay on the 30 miles an hour limit, and it's only at this point that they'll see the 20 mile an hour sign. The 20 mile an hour does not include this section under the current proposals, and that's the King's Walk and Jobson Close that leads into the Bear Hill care home. So that's not included in the 20 mile an hour area at this point. People that wanted to cross the road here are in a 30 mile an hour area. So anyone that's going to the care home or kids that are going to want to go down to the school are going to have to cross the road in a 30 mile an hour area. See, quite busy intersection, and this is just on a Saturday afternoon, not normal rush hour that you may find during the school hours. So kids are going to have to cross the street, and it's not even in the 20 mile an hour area. Just going along Oakland Road, heading towards another entrance of the 20 mile an hour zone, but this area is all going to be 20 mile an hour. A bit of a tight road here, but we'll get through it. No problem. That guy was driving probably around 20 miles an hour, so already a lot of people are currently doing 20 miles an hour, so in many sections it probably won't make that much of a difference to people. here we go. So here's intersection of Evangar and lower Evangar. And we'll go down the steep hill and see the start of the 20-mile-an-hour zone here. Whee!
This is just a lovely cycle ride going along this part, so let's enjoy it. Okay, here we are at the bottom. Turned right, come underneath the old railway arch, and now just looking back towards the town centre.
So here we are on Bell Street. This is the start of the 20-mile-an-hour zone leading into the town centre. That's the old railway bridge that you see behind me. So the signs for 20 miles an hour will go right here at Hartley Meadow, and everything up that way towards Caesars Way will be in the 30-mile-an-hour, or remain 30-mile-an-hour. What is currently a grassy field behind me is going to be a housing estate in the years to come. It's got planning application in for several hundred houses in there, and they'll be entering onto this road here, but if they turn right to go into town under the old railway bridge, that'll be in the 20-mile-an-hour area.
Alright, let's head back underneath the arch and onto Wells Lane, looking up lower Evangar. Oh, what's going on here?
What just happened there was that a couple kids with their mum about to cross the street. They're going to go under the old railway bridge. A car was turning right to go up to lower Evangar, but the kids looked, probably didn't see the car turning, and they just dashed across the road. But the car, because it was going so slowly, was able to stop in time. Kids passed in front safely, got to the other side. Mum had a little bit of a telling off to the kids to make sure they check everywhere, but kids are going to be kids. Things like that are going to happen. And good on the car driver for noticing the situation and applying the brakes, letting the kids go, and everything was happy at the end. This is the start of the official 20-mile-an-hour zone that's being proposed. The Wells Lane up there is not going to be included. It's only at this point here at Wells Lane. It's the intersection with Bell Road, leading up a lower Evangar, that's going to be 20 miles an hour. And you can see here we got a lorry coming up this street. This street up behind me is going to remain, as I said, 30 miles an hour. Swing around and follow it up there. So that's 30 miles an hour going up over this hill. And obviously down the other side to the church. That's going to remain all 30 in the current proposal. Here we are on Wells Lane. That's going to remain 30 miles an hour. The 20-mile-an-hour entry is down the bottom of the hill there with Bell Road. We're right at the intersection of Fair Close. That leads into the Rising Fives. And in the other direction, we have the underpass and a footpath that leads under the old railway line and through into the fields, which will soon be a housing area. So when that estate is built, we're going to have a lot of people passing through the tunnel here, I would presume, on their way into town, which is down Fair Close, either dropping their kids off at the preschool, or maybe doing some shopping in the town centre, or the older kids going to the primary school or Testbourne, straight down this way. This whole area, that's under the current proposals, going to remain 30 miles an hour. It's not part of the proposal for 20 mile an hour. Here we are on Wells Lane, heading down the nice gentle slope towards the cricket field in the distance. You can see the church is going to be on our left. This whole area is 30 miles an hour. Lots of people will be parking here tomorrow morning when they are going to the church. It's just coming up here on the left. That's Church Street. Pretty creative name, I must say. That leads into the town centre. To the right is the old railway line. You'll see the beautiful arch. And the new A34 bridge behind that. Let's go this way. So this part will remain 30 miles an hour, and there's All Hallows Church. Somewhere behind the trees. There it is. Beautiful. It's worth stopping here for a minute, because a lot of people may need to pop in there and do a prayer before they hit this blind corner. Because across there is a footpath. This whole section is not 30 miles, or not going to be in 20 miles an hour. It's going to be remaining in the 30. So let's carefully go there ourselves. This whole section is 30 miles an hour and is planned to remain so. In fact, the gateway for 20 mile an hour is just down there, probably a little bit near where that blue car is, as you see it going past now. So this section up here, near the All Hallows Church, is going to be remaining 30 miles an hour. And the interesting thing to point out here, apart from the BT faster broadband box that they put in there, is that footpath behind me. That's a popular route for many people in town to go down to the river test and enjoy the sights to be seen there. It's the only publicly accessible part of the river. That means that people are going to be trying to cross the road here. And this, as many people in town know, is a blind corner leading around here to Church Street, or leading around to All Hallows along Church Street. So many people will be driving along here, say to get to church or to get out of town, heading towards Andover, coming around this blind corner. Meanwhile, people are trying to cross here, but it's at 30 miles an hour instead of at 20. One of the nice things of 20 mile an hour zone is it makes people feel a lot safer just to get around town. And we're very fortunate here in Whitchurch that we've got our own bike shop. They've got all kinds of bikes, from sporty bikes to utilitarian bikes. The guys in there that run it seem to be more on the sporty side, I must admit. But I'm here. I had a couple spokes that just popped on me, and they're fixing it up for me. It's so convenient. You just pop in here and everything gets sorted. Around town we have a few places that you can park your bike as well and go into the shops, get what you want, pop back on your bike, head back home, and having the 20 mile an hour around just makes you feel that much safer just going out and about.
26-inch rim.
We're here on London Road. That's it leading into the town centre behind me. From the other direction is the main entrance into the town from the Overton area, and also where the new gin distillery will be in Laverstoke. It's marked as currently 30 miles an hour, and it's under the current proposal to remain 30 miles an hour. The 20 mile an hour zone will be a bit further down the hill. So I've come just a tiny bit down along London Road to where I've parked up my bicycle, just to show you a bit more closely this crossing where my kids cross to get to school. So as you can tell, there's no pavement markings whatsoever, and if we look back at my bike, you can tell there's actually an embankment that makes it very difficult for anyone coming up to be able to see. This one a lot of people may not know about, but it is also an access point for getting down to Hillside, where some people can cross over. It's a bit more difficult to use because there's no path or steps to get down the little bit of a slope there, and you end up right on the main road at this point. This whole section, this whole intersection here, and the pedestrian crossings are not a part of the 20 mile an hour zone that's proposed for Whitchurch. Neither, for that matter, is Hillside. I've come a little bit further along London Road now. You can see behind me a footpath, that's Chatter Lane, where a lot of people like to walk their dogs or go out for a nice Sunday stroll. Fortunate part is that it pops you right down onto the main road there on London Road, 30 miles an hour at that point. A lot of people also, like myself, like to walk along that bit of the road to get to this place, the Prince Regent Pub. It's a popular spot, I must say, and it also marks where the 20 mile an hour zone begins. So the signs will go up just there at the other end of the pub, and from that point forward it'll be 20 miles an hour into the rest of Whitchurch. There's the Prince Regent pub behind me. I've come down to the Green and also Pound Meadow just in front of me. It's a popular route for people to get into town, or perhaps for children to get to the primary school, which is just through Pound Meadow and across the bridge of the River Test and onto Testbourne or the primary school. This whole section, though, interestingly enough, is not included in the proposed 20-mile-an-hour zone. This is designated still as 30-mile-an-hour. Also, an interesting point is this section behind me up here, which leads onto London Road, doesn't include any sort of signage to let people know that it's changed from being a 30-mile-an-hour zone here into a 20-mile-an-hour zone just up the road from there. Gosh, that sun's bright. I've come here to the primary school. Yeah, the whole area here is going to be in the 20-mile-an-hour zone, but what I wanted to point out was the whole section down here where people often drive their kids to school, and it's going to be interesting to see if that changes or if there's a reduction. When everything becomes 20 miles an hour, will parents feel more comfortable letting kids cycle or scooter or walk themselves to school? Or will they still feel the need to drive them and drop them off and pick them up? I guess time will tell, and we'll have to see what happens. This is the Mitchell-Dever section where we're going to have the 20-mile-an-hour scheme. Beautiful countryside all around us. That's one of the lovely things about living in this part of the world. Currently the road goes from 60 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour at this juncture, but it'll be going from 60 to 20 under the new scheme. Testbourne School just down the end there. This is a popular street for people to be driving to work. Gets you down to the A303 after a few little miles, but also gets you to the countryside. So a lot of people will be walking the dogs or just coming out for a leisurely stroll or maybe even a cycle ride along this section. As you can tell, there's quite a few cars that come along here even on a Sunday afternoon just to get out to the countryside and coming back in as well. So now I've come down to Winchester Road, and behind me you'll see the Weir, which is coming in there from your left, and lots of cars will be queuing up here to try to get into the town centre because of the cars that are parked on the road along this section, so that does already seem to slow quite a lot of people down getting in. So the 20-mile-an-hour area is going to be actually right at that corner, at that intersection. So we'll go from 60 on the motorway, down to 40, 30, and then 20 here. The Mitchell-Dever intersection just a little bit further along, that's where a lot of the school buses will be turning and people dropping off their kids. And as I said, at the primary school, it'll be interesting to see how many more kids will be going off to school on their own if people feel it's safer to get there once it's all a 20-mile-an-hour area. Here we are on Winchester Road. That's the entrance and exit to the A34. A lot of people will be traveling along this section of the road to get into town centre. They'll pass the entrance to the Millennium Meadow here behind me, and a little bit further along the entrance to the allotments. So this section is not in the current proposal for 20 miles an hour. People that are crossing here and further along will be in the 30-mile-an-hour zone.
So there you go, 20-mile-an-hour zone, as well as some of the remaining 30. What do you think? Questionnaires are going out to many households, so those that get them, make sure you fill them in and send them back to the county very quickly. I believe the deadline's first thing in the new year. For livable Whitchurch, please do this. Thanks.
So why did the chicken cross the road? And the town and the city centre? City centre, what am I saying? What is in that green box?